3 days, viewers, 3 days before the 13th anniversary of the 26/11 attacks, a sensational disclosure by a top former UPA minister and a currently serving Congress politician has put the party, the Congress party, in a spot. In his yet-to-be-released book, Manish Tiwari writes that after the 26/11 attacks, the UPA never pursued the option to punish Pakistan. Yes, viewers, this is now confirmation coming from within Congress ranks. At that time, Manish Tiwari was an influential national spokesperson for the Congress party. At the time of the attacks, he would have been on many news channels defending the Congress party's record. Remember, the 26/11 attacks in 2008, viewers, came on the back of several terror attacks, many of which were carried out by Pakistani-sponsored terror groups. India was submitting dossiers at that time, collating information to build pressure on Pakistan to turn off the terror tap. However, till the 26/11 attacks, viewers, diplomacy continued as usual. Well, why was this? Tiwari has ventured to say that UPA's restraint was not seen as a sign of strength or resilience, but as a symbol of weakness. He acknowledges it. In other words, the Congress leader seems to suggest that Pakistan, that needed to be deterred from ever daring to strike India, felt emboldened. Of course, the UPA had many options, but it's a mystery why it chose not to exercise them. Later on in this introduction, viewers, I will play out the soundbite of a very important player that served under the UPA. The UPA's restraint was unlike the NDA's aggression. The Modi government not only carried out surgical strikes to avenge Uri, but also airstrikes in Balakot in retaliation for Pulwama. Because of UPA's inability to punish Pakistan, even 13 years later, 166 families who lost their dear ones are still awaiting justice. Every year since that particular date, we celebrate, viewers, the sacrifice of our braves. And we also, viewers, mark that particular anniversary. Some have described it as the most devastating terror attack on Indian soil, so that we can remind ourselves that justice has not been done. The masterminds, Hafiz Saeed and Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi, are living comfortable lives in Pakistan under the aegis of the Imran Khan government. First, viewers, let's tell you what Manish Tiwari has revealed. Here are some excerpts. Pakistan, he says, has no compunctions in brutally slaughtering hundreds. Restraint, not a sign of strength. It is perceived as weakness. There is a time when actions must speak louder than words. 26/11 was one such time when it should have been done. India should have actioned a kinetic response in the following days. Of course, viewers, it didn't happen. And today, in hindsight, Manish Tiwari is lamenting it. Well, it's all very well to do so, but it might have helped had he come out publicly then and challenged his own government's inaction. The BJP, of course, has been quick to target the Congress, saying that the party needs to learn from the NDA that demonstrated decisive leadership that made Bharat Mazboot by punishing Pakistan. Listen.
Decisions of this nature during Prime Minister Modi's time, 2014 onwards, you would see he is done with a clear-headed leadership which takes the armed forces into confidence and addresses the issues, whereas which was completely absent during the UPA days. And that is why, in spite of such a blatant attack, we have not had justice given to us till today. So very well that the book has been written.
उनको इस बात का अच्छी तरह एहसास है कि उन्होंने जिस तरह से बेदर्दी और बेशर्मी के साथ पंथ निरपेक्षता का नुकसान करने की कोशिश की और सांप्रदायिकता का चोला पहन करके वोटों का अपहरण करने की कोशिश की, वो एक के बाद एक एक्सपोज हुआ है। अब मुझे लगता है कि इस सांप्रदायिकता के वोट और धर्मनिरपेक्षता के खोट के साथ जिस उड़न खटोले पर ये लोग बैठे थे वो हवाबाई हो रहा है। तो इस तरह की बातें कई अलग अलग जगहों से सुनाई पड़ रही है।
After these attacks by the Bharatiya Janata Party, Manish Tiwari put out a tweet in an attempt to provide the Congress a fig leaf. He attacks the BJP but doesn't backtrack on his analysis of Congress inaction. He said, and I quote him, amused at BJP's reaction from one excerpt from a 304-page book. Will BJP react to hard analysis of its own handling of national security? Now, viewers, Times Now had led the coverage on the 26/11 attacks. Journalists such as myself and my other colleagues had spent a number of days, along with all of you viewers, sleepless nights covering those attacks in Mumbai. And it is disappointing to know that while there were options, there was no political will. In fact, this was also confirmed in 2016 by Air Chief Marshal retired Fali Homi Major. Listen into what he told Times Now.
It was in the basic stage of planning when we had gone through, as I said, many options. And of course, we had everything in mind, what aircraft to use, what weapons to use, how to use them. All those plans were ready. But what we were waiting for was the target system itself and the go-ahead from the government.
Well, viewers, that's confirmation coming from a serviceman who was just waiting for the green light. They're speaking to Srinjoy Chaudhary, Times Now's National Affairs editor. Let me, viewers, tell you that while Manish Tiwari has struggled today to belatedly hand a fig leaf to the Congress to hide behind, there are many in the party that visibly harbor a soft spot for Pakistan even now. Let me give you a few examples. Just 3 or 4 days back, Navjot Singh Sidhu, while crossing the border along the Kartarpur corridor, came out and said that Imran Khan is like an elder brother to me. Yes, the same person, viewers, who sanctions terror attacks on Indian soil, who tries to paint a picture to divide India on a daily basis on international fora. That's Imran Khan for you. But obviously, a gushing Navjot Singh Sidhu can't see it. Kapil Sibal once said in April 2019, almost echoing Pakistan's own propaganda, that the international media, he quoted, says hardly anyone died at Balakot. Navjot Singh Sidhu in August 2018, he hugged the Pakistani army chief at Imran Khan's swearing in. He was a special invitee there, viewers. And it's not as if the Congress has gone out of its way to tick off Navjot Singh Sidhu. There have been instances where other Congress leaders, Manish Tiwari, Shashi Tharoor, have been visiting Pakistan in purported back channels to try and affect some sort of a closure, but have been found out in the Pakistani media running down India's national leadership or even hoping that Pakistan would help in removing the incumbent Prime Minister today. So there is this long history. I want to open this up because, viewers, let's put some questions to our guests tonight. And I'm joined by, of course, Congress leader, Mr. Kamruzaman Chaudhary. Mr. Chaudhary, you know, has this new Bhaichara diplomacy, this whole affliction of putting Bada Bhai first, undermined Bharat and Bharat's interests, betrayed our braves and their sacrifices? Mr. Chaudhary.
Yeah, Rahul, the context of debate that you are speaking out here, I can make out there are two contexts out here. One context that I can see the Sidhu's visit to Pakistan, and the second context is the Manish Tiwari's excerpts from the book that you have read out, and you are prominently displaying as the Congress and the UPA's inability to strike at Pakistan when it mattered most, that is after the 26/11. But then without the book being released and without reading out of context what exactly Manish Tiwari ji, a great leader of the Congress party, of course, he means to say, we'll be misquoting him right now, and it will be very premature for us to tell everybody, your viewers, what exactly the meaning of those excerpts will be. Having said that, let me tell you just one thing, that aftermath of the 26/11, when the UPA government under Manmohan Singh, along with all the three army chiefs, made a very decisive attempt to attack at the core of the terror base that Pakistan is supporting right now along the border of India. But then there were certain diplomatic events that happened out there. You cannot read the entire incident out of context and say that, okay, we don't need to be hobnobbing with our enemies, but we need to strike at them where it hurts the most. But then you must remember, during that time, I believe it was in the date of 7 December 2008, when the US Senator John McCain came down to India to de-escalate the tensions that were going on between India and Pakistan, when all our Indian army units were ready to launch a war on Pakistan. But then the warmongering that you are debating right now, that time the foreign policy context, what was there, how it has to be tackled, because the terrorism is not a one-day affair. We have been abused, we have been mauled by the terrorists from across the border.
If I may.
As an Indian, honestly, let me finish, 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds, please. As an Indian, I would have wanted one Indira Gandhi out here to completely decimate Pakistan from the map of the world and include that within India. But is that really practically possible, sir? It is not. When it mattered most, when we had a Bangladesh or the East Pakistan on our eastern side of the border, the Iron Lady of India, Indira Gandhi, she kicked out Pakistan from Bangladesh, and we have got a relatively peaceful neighbor on the eastern part. Now what's happening to the Chinese incursion when they're creating colonies after colonies?
So
where is the Chappan inch? Where is the Lal Akh?
Okay, so let me...
That is, they are not showing...
Okay, you asked for 10 seconds.
Foreign policy
I've given you 10 seconds more. Now, Mr. Chaudhary, so it's interesting. You're making two basic presumptions. Number one, that the Indian army doesn't have the capacity to do things to punish Pakistan. Number one, which of course, one minute, let me finish, sir. Now, let's not speak over each other. I don't like that, please. And if you want to, then find another platform, please. You can come back. I'll give you an opportunity to respond. Don't speak over me. I never spoke over you.
You just
so now listen to me.
Sir.
So
I never said that Indian army does not have the capacity. We are the largest army, in fact, in the world.
I'm only saying, sir, that was your implication.
We can take over Pakistan.
Okay, let me finish.
But are you risking a nuclear war in the region?
Let me finish.
We need to understand this.
Let me finish. There are tactical options.
Hell with you and your nuclear war.
You know, there are tactical options that are available. You're not an armyman. That's why we have one who's fought, sir, in the trenches against all forms of enemies in General G.D. Bakshi. That's why he's here. So I understand that you're trying to paper over, and provide a rationale, and you're within your rights to do so. but you suggested you needed an Indira Gandhi-like figure. Well, I don't know why the Congress could not reclaim a legacy through Dr. Manmohan Singh. I don't know why they didn't do it. Fali Major, the Air Marshal there came out and said that we were ready. We were waiting. What we were waiting for was the target system itself and the go-ahead from the government. We were ready. Why you didn't give it? Then you say, oh, there was a context, the Americans came and they were putting pressure. So, sir, are our national interests and the defense of national interests going to be dictated by America? Are you conceding that point? Because if you are, then that's worrying.
No,
nonetheless.
Then why did you, why are you, no, Rahul, why are we then bringing out our 5 million, petrol from our reserves on pressure of America? They are giving out 50
What are you
million.
talking about? That? What has got that got to do with? Now, one second, Mr. Kamarazuddin Chowdhury. Listen.
No, then why did
no,
you
one
say
second.
that
One second. Is it your case today that
take one thing?
Okay, that India cannot defend its economy by taking practical steps in its own defense? Is that? Look, this analogy is completely misplaced. Nonetheless, okay. Let me now open this up further. I want to bring in Nupur Sharma for a political response, and then General G.D. Bakshi to explain to the Congress representative what could have been done and what was done. So, Nupur Sharma, a quick political response to Kamruzaman Chaudhary.
Yeah. Well, good evening. Good evening, Rahul, to you panelists and also to your viewers. You know, it's actually it's an argument of convenience that, oh, I wish Indira Gandhi was there. But the fact is that Congress actually chickened out in 2013 when they had a straight-up offer of Dawood Ibrahim surrendering, the prime accused of the 93 Mumbai blast. And you all know, we all know what happened after that. It was discussed with the NSA of the country that time, with the Honorable Prime Minister. They chickened out. So when you actually come here and you measure the 56 inch chhati, perhaps you need to first measure your own spine or rather spinelessness. Air Marshal Fali Major wouldn't be lying that they took a proposal to the government of the day and you chickened out yet again. Well, the basic difference, Rahul, as you rightly said in your pilot, is simply this. It's not just hugging Bajwa. Don't forget the Congress party described at the same time the Indian Army chief as a Sadak ka Gunda. It is not simply of calling Bajwa as an elder brother, oh, by a Congress Pradesh Adhyaksh no less. Let's also not forget these very congressmen, time and again, in spite of the COAS, coming on the public forum, in front of the press, telling you what had happened, what had actually transpired in Uri, in Balakot. These very congressmen used the same media platform to ask for sabooth. These sabooth gangsters, rather, are the ones who were busy changing their clothes. These are the ones who were busy actually partying away because of their best friend's wedding during the 26/11 terrorist attack, which went on for days on end. They were least bothered. This is exactly what the Congress party is all about. If Batla House terrorists can make Sonia Mataji cry, I mean, lesser said the better. This is not
quick response from Mr. Chaudhary. Quick response on those 3 points. 3 points, and I want to bring in General Bakshi.
Nupur ji. Yeah, let me, Rahul. Just Nupur ji ko mere ko bahut respect karta hu main unka. Lekin why is she forgetting that Arunachal Pradesh, Ladakh, and all those bordering China? Chinese army has entered into our country, made villages within our country, occupied our territory. What is our Lalak doing? What is Mr. 56 doing?
I'll answer this.
Okay. So you're changing now the goalpost. You're not answering on 26/11, but you're bringing in China.
No,
okay. Quick response.
This is not changing.
5 seconds.
Rahul,
this is not changing.
5 seconds.
Okay.
Quick response, Rahul. Quick response. Of course, you're right. They are changing the goalpost. May I please answer, Rahul? Please. They are obviously changing the goalpost. He has no answers as to what is their love for Pakistan, that even Pakistani politicians in the parliament quote Rahul Gandhi and they want to see Rahul Gandhi as the next prime minister. And Manish Tiwari goes there begging कि मोदी हटाओ और कांग्रेस को लाओ भारत में.
Let's just let me cut in here.
As an answer
okay,
to China,
Mr. Chaudhary and Ms. Sharma, let me just come in. Let's lower everyone's faders for 30 seconds. Let me just come in. Look, forget about the political wrangling, viewers. We know the history, and there is no doubt there was no retaliation Why wasn't there retaliation? Were there no military options? Let me bring in General Bakshi on this point. There's Shubh Rastha also there with us now, who's joined this debate. Dr. Raman is also here. General Bakshi, no capacity? Did India lack the capacity? Would we have risked a nuclear war, as Kamaruddin Chaudhary is saying?
Rahul, we have heard this piece of most irritating fiction. Please don't forget that in the year of the Lord 1999, we had fought a 3 months almost war with Pakistan. 3 divisions from our side, almost a division from their side, artillery, 155 millimeter howitzers, the full weight of our Western Air Command. You know, non-stop the battle went on for 3 months, almost. How many bombs did you see landing in New Delhi? This is the greatest piece of fiction that I have ever heard, that you cross the line of control and pop goes the weasel, New Delhi will go up in holy smoke. Nonsense! What that war in Kargil clearly highlighted was that there is scope for a limited war. And there is a lot of scope for vertical escalation up the escalation ladder against a nuclear backdrop. You could start with surgical strikes, you could do fighter bomber raids across the line, cruise missile strikes. Your navy could get to Karachi, blast the hell out of Clifton's Dawood's bungalow. I mean, the choice is multifarious. But the simple fact is, Rahul, after the worst mass casualty strike in India, 165 innocent civilians murdered in cold blood. What did we do? Sweet Fanny Adams. Sweet nothing. We sent kilotons of dossiers. We appealed to the Pakistani courts and made a mockery of ourselves. They said this is fiction. These kilotons of dossiers. You expected the Pakistani courts to take action against the terrorists who the Pakistani Army ISI complex had raised, trained, armed, funded and infiltrated for the attack. You know, Rahul, let me make some things very clear.
Yes.
The actual reality is that at that time the United States put heavy pressure. They have said so in writing, their diplomats, heavy pressure on the UPA government not to retaliate, because Pakistan was providing the communications for Afghanistan, the logistic routes of supply. They bended on their knee before the American national interest. They didn't care a damn for the poor Indian citizen just because he was not in the Zulu category. Does he become the scum of the earth? Does his life count for nothing? 165 and you do nothing. If you had retaliated strongly, the whole world would have backed you up. You had the right to hot pursuit by international law. You could have hit those LTTE headquarters. You could have hit Dawood's headquarters. You could have used your Army, Navy, Air Force. You would have been fully justified. Look what the Americans did after 9/11. And you went on your bended knee. You didn't care for your citizens. Then you came up with devious, ploys to deflect attention. Hindu terror, if you please. Hindu terror, if you please.
Okay, 1 second. Let me. 1 second, Mr. Chaudhary. 1 second. Let's go to the others also.
What exactly happened?
Okay, 1 second. This is a general's point of view. He's not a politician. So please respect that. Someone who is, Shubh Rastha, let me bring you in, and Dr. Raman, let me bring you in. The Congress, right after this particular attack, there were top leaders of the Congress party that called the 26/11 attacks and RSS Shajish. You know this very well. Their books were released, etc. So I just want to ask you, why was this false equivalence drawn? Why was this narrative, fake narrative sort of spread? What was behind it?
Rahulji, I have maintained this for quite some time now, especially after what happened on the borders with China. I have been maintaining this, and I reiterate that there is something really fishy between the Congress party, the communists in China, and what goes on in Pakistan. I think there is a thread that needs to be thoroughly investigated by our intelligence agencies here in India and abroad. And I'll tell you, Rahul, why I feel so. You remember when we were all really scuttling it out with China on the borders. This was during Arunachal elections, and Arunachal elections and 2019 general elections sort of coincided, and the national media couldn't cover what happened in Arunachal in great detail then, because general elections and the mood of general elections had really taken over the consciousness of the national media. But something really tensed was going on for the first time ever in the history of Arunachal, in the history of democratic Arunachal Pradesh, with democracy in place. Lot of nefarious activities sponsored by the China took place. Arunachal burnt for months on end, and nobody in the media really had a clue, because perhaps by design or by strategy, because all of this could really have flared up tensions across the border, it was not covered in great detail. I remember this because Rahul Gandhi went into a clandestine meeting with the Chinese officials right then. I don't understand why did he go there, despite pleas on national media by citizens like us to come out in the open, ask the Congress party to release a press note detailing why Rahul Gandhi met the Chinese premier at that point in time and other Chinese delegation at that point in time. What discussion did he have when the borders were tensed? What discussion could Rahul Gandhi, a footnote in the entire opposition spectrum that we have, what interest did he have to meet the Chinese right then? I'm bringing this in, Rahul, because this is very similar to what happened in during 26/11. We all know that after the attack, all of us, general citizens of the country, nationalist citizens of the country, were seething with rage. We knew who was behind this, but there was Congress party trying to float this whole nonsense of saffron terror. I call this nonsense because even after all those stupid book releases that happened, I'm calling it stupid because people who attended it, people who endorsed the book, went on to expose their intellectual vacuity. Why do I keep reiterating the fact that the opposition is absolutely incapable intellectually to take on the challenges of the day? Because they keep endorsing those opinions which are not in national interest. What was the need to float a theory of Sanghi terror or saffron terror when everybody in India and abroad knew the real culprit behind those attacks? We all know what followed after that. We all know how Congress party lost the trust of its of citizens across India. What really intrigues me is that instead of working on to rebuild this trust with people, they are going on and on about the same theory till now. No. Is there a Pakistani hand? This is a question, Rahul. This is not.
Let me tell you something.
Is there a Pakistani hand in detailing Congress's narrative?
Okay, Dr. Raman, look, there was a lot of media speculation that the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks came just a day after the Home Secretary level talks between India and Pakistan concluded in Islamabad. It has been revealed that the Indian Ministry of Home Affairs officials who were in Pakistan for the talks on November 25th, 2008 were made to extend their trip there. You know this. This came out. Now, these three MHA officials that were reportedly enjoying Pakistani hospitality were in Murree. And this has been disclosed by RVS Mani, the former Undersecretary in Ministry of Home Affairs. And there was also an election looming. And many people have said that perhaps the UPA was trying to, we know the statements that were coming out about Hindu terror, etc., was more concerned about shoring up a particular vote bank rather than going after Pakistan to ensure justice. Is this improbable? Now, in hindsight, after what Manish Tiwari has said, there has to be some reason for the inaction. It certainly was not tactical. There was no one holding us back. You've seen Fali Major Saab. He's come out and even said that, look, we were ready. So something was holding them back. Was it a secret deal, a pact? Shubh Rastha is hinting at one with China. Was there one with perhaps Pakistan? What explains Sidhu's continuous love, outpouring of support for Imran Khan, who's even being, sort of called a turncoat by his own people now in the Pakistan army?
Good theory, Rahul.
Dr. Raman.
If I can speak. Yeah. For the first 2-3 points, we are doing this entire debate without knowing the full import of what Manish Tiwari said. Having said that, because the book has not come out yet, he's put out some excerpts. It is wrong on his part to have put out just these excerpts because it embarrasses his party unnecessarily, because we don't even know what the book says,
so
as he himself has said. One. Now, the second point is, it is very easy for anybody to have an opinion on anything. When such a major decision is to be taken, there are 200 different things which need to be considered. Now, for instance, instead of doing a post-mortem on what the UPA did wrong, maybe it would be nice if we did a debate on what the present government is doing about all those satellite photos about Arunachal Pradesh and China having built villages there. There seems to be no debate about the present, but we want to debate entirely about the past. A decision, the UPA government took a decision. That decision was perhaps to get the international community on the side of India with the moral stance that it took.
Okay,
and,
so that project extended for 5 years.
1 second. What happened? No. Now that post Pulwama, we had the Balakot strike. What has actually changed on the ground? Has terrorism stopped? There is no terrorism now.
Sir, the numbers have certainly come down.
No, in Jammu and Kashmir, the numbers have come down.
Of course they have. The numbers have come down, and it's a fact. And you also have. Let me finish, sir.
How many 100,000 soldiers additionally are there now?
That doesn't matter.
5 years ago?
The point is that we are giving a jaw for tooth response, and that's what matters. It doesn't matter how many we've deployed. If we don't deploy, individuals like you say we are leaving things to chance. Yes, I have one problem. Let me tell you what my one problem is. My one problem with the government right now is that we have again announced a ceasefire with Pakistan Armed Forces. It's a big problem for us, viewers. It's giving Pakistan time to recoup. We can do without any generosity to Pakistan. That is a criticism that we can have a debate on. We've discussed Kashmir, China and its intrusion several times on this very channel, viewers. But, Dr. Raman, the point is, you said international consensus. Hear me out. You said international consensus. They couldn't develop it in 2010, the following year, 2011, 2012, 2013. 5 years went by. But UPA did nothing. Talks went on. Why?
Excuse me, Rahul, I don't think you're actually appreciating the fact that India had a nuclear deal signed with the US.
Let me tell you, viewers.
And soon after this, US Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice visited. You remember in December she visited here.
Sir, I am not bothered about serving US interests. India's interests should never have been seconded to US interests. Who cares? There's always pressure. Everybody will tell you, even the Vajpayee government was under pressure not to carry out the nuclear test. They did it. They did it clandestinely. Pokhran was done. They knew the implications. But if you don't want to do something because you fear the consequences, because you want to constantly play, virtue signal to the rest of the world, then that's a problem. That's a big problem. And that shows, I'm not saying it.
The liberation of the breakup of Pakistan and the liberation of Bangladesh was done by Indira Gandhi with the US pushing their 6th fleet into the Bay of Bengal. Are you aware of that?
Dr. Raman, we are all aware of it. You can ask the Congress government of that time why it decided not to press the advantage.
But now, why aren't we talking about China?
No, 1 second. Now, Dr. Raman, look, I haven't made this particular observation. This observation has been made by Manish Tiwari. Whether he has done it mischievously to sell his book, or he has done it without permission from the Gandhis, or he deserves
says
to be
read
sued
the
by the Gandhis. I can't speak for him, and I can't speak for the Congress party.
He says read the book.
Okay,
You don't want to read the
he's
book.
made an observation. He has put it out himself through his publisher. He should deal with the
Absolutely.
publisher and ask the publisher why he didn't put it in the larger context. Perhaps he wants to sell his book. Who knows? But the fact is,
He
viewers,
doesn't want to sell his book.
the
He
fact
wants
is,
to sell
viewers,
his book.
here is
It
a senior
unethical.
minister of the UPA, former
I said
minister.
It is unethical.
Okay, Dr. Raman, why don't you pick up the phone and speak to Manish Tiwari? I'll facilitate the interview on this platform. Don't worry, we can have this.
It is wrong on
You
his
can
part
quiz
to
him.
embarrass
It
the
might be
party.
wrong on his part, but the facts are out
He
there.
wants to
They are not
maybe
being
sell his
disputed.
book.
I'll leave it at this,
No.
viewers. We have another big debate coming up. The BCCI has passed a diktat making halal meat mandatory for the players. This is leading to a massive debate. We'll come back to that.